Shalom. As we turn now to Psalm 94, let me point out that this psalm is designated for reading every Wednesday morning. It is the psalm of the day for Wednesday that is recited at the conclusion of the service, of the morning service. God of retribution, Lord, God of retribution, appear. Rise up, judge of the earth, give the arrogant their deserts. How long shall the wicked, O Lord? How long shall the wicked exult? Shall they utter insolent speech? Shall all evildoers vaunt themselves? They crush your people, O Lord. They afflict your very own. They kill the widow and the stranger. They murder the fatherless, thinking, the Lord does not see it. The God of Jacob does not pay heed. Take heed, you most brutish people. Fools, when will you get wisdom? Shall he who implants the ear not hear? He who forms the eye not see? Shall he who disciplines nations not punish? He who instructs men in knowledge? The Lord knows the designs of men to be futile. Happy is the man whom you discipline, O Lord, the man you instruct in your teaching, to give him tranquility in times of misfortune, until a pit be dug for the wicked. For the Lord will not forsake his people, he will not abandon his very own. That judgment shall again accord with justice, and all the upright shall rally to it. Who will take my part against evil men? Who will stand up for me against wrongdoers? Were not the Lord my help, I should soon dwell in silence. When I think my foot has given way, your faithfulness, O Lord, supports me. When I am filled with cares, your assurance soothes my soul. Shall the seat of injustice be your partner that frames mischief by statute? They band together to do away with the righteous. They condemn the innocent to death. But the Lord is my haven. My God is my sheltering rock. He will make their evil recoil upon them, annihilate them through their own wickedness. The Lord our God will annihilate them. Just a reminder that in the immediately preceding Psalm, number 93, the psalmist declares, the Lord is king, he is robed in grandeur. And grandeur in that context in Hebrew is geut. And I mentioned in my comments to Psalm 93 that Hebrew word geut, when applied to the Lord, is translated and understood as grandeur, as something grand, great. But when that same Hebrew word applies to human beings, it takes on a very different meaning. And in those contexts, that word, geut, means arrogant. And indeed, in our very psalm today, 94, rise up, judge of the earth, give the arrogant, again, that Hebrew word geut, give the arrogant their deserts. So God's grandeur is contrasted with the arrogance of human beings. Now, which human beings are we talking about here in this psalm? He makes it very clear. He associates the wicked with those who are insolent and those who crush God's people. And who are God's people in this case? Well, they are the disenfranchised, the have-nots as opposed to the haves. They are the widow and the stranger. The widow who have lost their husbands, and the stranger, those who have not yet found a permanent home and may have lost their previous home. The fatherless, those who have lost their father or their parents, the orphans. The have-nots, those who are vulnerable, are oppressed and crushed by the wicked in this psalm. And the psalmist imagines that these wicked people do what they do while thinking that they can get away with it because God doesn't see it. God doesn't pay attention, so they think they can do whatever they want. But the psalmist reminds us that God indeed does pay close attention to what the wicked do, and they will be punished and suffer the consequences as a result. And then he makes a shift. Happy is the man whom you discipline, O Lord, the man you instruct in your teaching. Ashrei hagever, happy is the person whom you discipline. What does it mean, discipline here? Tiasrenu in Hebrew, or liyaser, can mean punish. Discipline in the sense of punishment or inflicting some kind of suffering. How can a person who is experiencing suffering and discipline at the hands of God be happy? The psalmist gives us a clue. He says, the man you instruct in your teaching, to give him tranquility in times of misfortune. While this good person, who is a person of faith and a person who believes in the importance and value of morality, of a morally ordered world, this person is able to find tranquility during times of misfortune. And he does that by virtue of God's teaching. Torah, that's the word used here. Umi toratcha telamdenu. You teach him your Torah, your teaching. And by learning God's Torah, the person who is suffering is able to find direction and meaning in his suffering. He doesn't believe that his suffering is totally meaningless. He feels that there is some ultimate purpose or spiritual value in what he is enduring. And the very fact that he finds meaning in that makes him happy. Not happy like gleeful, joyful, dancing for joy happy, but happy in the deepest possible spiritual sense of spiritual inner peace, tranquility, and satisfaction. And that causes the deepest and most meaningful kind of happiness. He finds happiness knowing that God is faithful to him, that God supports him. And he says, when I'm filled with cares, in other words, when I'm allowing myself to worry and to fret, and when I suffer by virtue of that, God's assurance soothes his soul. It goes without saying that now, as we are in the middle of August, as I record this, and we are 5 months into COVID-19, into this terrible pandemic, with not a clear end in sight as yet, it goes without saying that we are experiencing a certain degree of suffering and care and worry, and maybe even some existential fear. But we can be happy. We can be happy, the psalmist reminds us, as we go through this, by remembering that it is our job and our role as human beings to find a sense of meaning and purpose in what we are going through. And ultimately, I believe that meaning and purpose has to do with our ability to care and show concern for our fellow human beings and to maintain a strong sense of faith and hope in God. That faith is what sustains us during these dark days, even as we feel that we are experiencing suffering. And through that faith, we can find true spiritual and emotional happiness. Thank you.